Yes, that's the ship from Thunder Force 2. Sit back and relax, prepare to enjoy the first 10 minutes of February's CGR 2085 podcast, Why the Sega Genesis is the greatest game system in the history of ever. The full thing runs well over an hour, and the CGR 2085 series is a Patreon exclusive. These run monthly. This should give you a good feel for what it sounds like. It's the future! 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 CGR 2085. What's up, everyone? This is Future Mark, coming to you from the future, the year 2085. But for this podcast, we're going to take a trip back to the 20th century, the 1900s. That's right. Fluff out that mullet and turn up your Alice in Chains cassette tape. Because today I'm talking about why the Sega Genesis is the greatest video game system in the history of ever. 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 In the future we do reverb manually. Ever. 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 Prepare for a trip. I've assembled an all-star cast of internet gaming celebrities and friends to talk about our mutual love and respect for the mighty 16-bit Sega Genesis. You'll be hearing from Metal Jesus Rocks, Lazy Game Reviews, Proton John, my friend Mark, who's a Sega collector enthusiast, and Old School Dave from the original Classic Game Room series. The man who helped me murder Seaman back in 2000 returns, and we talk Sega Genesis. Why is the Sega Genesis the greatest video game system in the history of ever? Why is it better than every other game system, even the good ones?
It's better just because it fucking is. And that's all there is to it. No, it came out at a time when, something new needed to come out, and it needed to be cool, it needed to be big, and it was everything that it had to be. And it was taking on Nintendo, it was taking on a monster. It was David versus Goliath, obviously, everybody kind of knows that story. And they came through and they won, and who doesn't love an underdog story? So you have that piece of it going along with it. I'm just going to be partial to the Sega Genesis. Simply no logic, no rationale behind it whatsoever. And that's basically behind every argument that I have tonight. So whatever I tell you, it's all bullshit because there's no rationale behind it whatsoever. It's purely fanboy. The fact that I loved Sega since I was like a child.
Well, I would say that it's not bullshit because you're truly passionate about the Sega Genesis. And the Super Nintendo is an excellent game system. But let's be honest. In a beauty contest, which one would win?
Oh my god. It's not even a question. Who's got the glossy black exterior?
Who's got high definition graphics?
Yeah. I mean, who's got the headphone jack with the volume? Come on.
With the red Cylon light in the front.
Exactly. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Design-wise, are you kidding me?
Metal Jesus Rocks.
A couple things that really struck me about it. One is that it's black, therefore it's metal, which I really liked. I all joking aside, I actually really liked the look of it, and especially when I started looking into the other models, the Model 2, the Model 3, and also the CDX. I just love that sort of look. It looks mean, And then also, too, when I started, okay, now I've got this console, let's go out and buy some games. And I was amazed, how many great games there were for it, how inexpensive most of them were, especially, just a couple years ago. And I love the fact that they came in the plastic clamshell case that kept them pristine.
Lazy Game Reviews.
I had never seen graphics like that. I had never seen, colors, the sound like that. The sound sounded like, I don't know, some sort of twangy alien spaceship all the time. It was wonderful. I loved all of that combination of things. And for me, yeah, it would just happen to be the first that blew me away. I guess the biggest thing that makes the Genesis unique, or at least what it did to me back then, and I suppose it's carried over into adulthood, if I really think about it, is the fact that the games on there, for me anyway, felt more legit than anything else. For instance, even the boxes to the Sega Genesis games themselves were in really thick plastic shells, clamshell boxes. And it was something about the shape of the cartridges themselves, that faint little area where you could pull you could pull the cartridge out from the back, the sort of indention there.
Proton John! So I'm sitting here trying to decide what kind of music to use when introducing Proton John. It's gotta be this one.
And I guess that's the one thing I both hated and loved about the Sega Genesis, was that the sound chip was so unique that if someone knew what they were doing with it, it sounded phenomenal. Streets of Rage, like, best soundtrack. But, and if you did not know what you were doing with the Genesis, it sounded terrible.
So basically every EA game.
Yeah.
Welcome my friend Mark from the state next to New Jersey!
Personally, my favorite model is the Model 2. I just think it looks so cool. It's sleek, it's small, it gets the job done really well. I know it doesn't have like all the raw RGB output that the Model 1 would be able to accomplish, but it's still super cool.
You may be the only person alive who thinks that, by the way.
Oh, shoot me. I don't know what to tell you.
It's okay. It's the same. It plays Truxton.
Yeah, they all play Truxton.
The Genesis plays a lot of things, most notably some really good music. There's nothing else in the universe that sounds like the Sega Genesis. Welcome to the CGR 2085 Future Review of the Sega Genesis sound. The music catalog on the Genesis is incredible. Once you start digging, there's no stop. You'll never reach the bottom. Unless you hit some EA games along the way. How's it possible that the same game system makes some of the most abrasive sounds imaginable and these smooth synth sounds from Technosoft's 1989 masterpiece, Herzog Zwei? Feel that 16-bit bass. It's the power of blast processing. We've all got our favorite video game songs. For many of you, it could be the theme from Super Mario Bros., or some of the music from Ocarina of Time, or the catchy tune from Pac-Man. All good songs. My favorite video game music comes from the Sega Genesis, which has a very distinctive sound. One of the great things about the Genesis era was that a lot of the games came with their own jukebox feature, so you could just play the music and then record it in the future in the year 2085 on future cassette tape. What we just heard was the sound of silence. While it's better than a lot of stuff, it's kinda boring. This is the sound of the single greatest video game soundtrack of all time. Allow me to introduce you to my friend, Musha. If Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction was a video game, this would be it. Every song in Musha is good. They're all well produced, they rock, they're clever. Just try to pick out the layers of music in For the Love of Musha. The Genesis could even talk to you. That was from Thunder Force 2, and this is Metal Jesus Rocks. Let's all welcome to this podcast from the past, because I'm in the future, Metal Jesus Rocks.
Is it weird to say that?
Metal Jesus Rocks. No, not at all.
It's funny because people will ask me, it's like, well, are you some sort of religious nut, or are you anti-God? That sort of stuff.
Do you answer that I'm pro Def Leppard?
Always. The answer is always, no, sir, I'm pro Def Leppard.
What is the best Def Leppard song? A big thanks to my friend Mark from New York, who's a huge Sega collector. He jumped in on this, as well as Dave from the original Game Room series, 1999 to 2000. And it was a pleasure talking to Metal Jesus Rocks, Lazy Game Reviews, and Proton John about the Sega Genesis. So thanks to all you guys for taking the time. I hope you enjoy this. I'll see you in the future.